You've found just stories, simple, heartfelt moments from real lives, stories that remind us how connected we all are through love, loss, and hope. Get cozy. The stories are about to begin. Elena closed the last file, her eyelids heavy with fatigue. Her gaze slid across the clock face. 10 in the evening. A surprised exhale escaped her lips. The phone in her hand immediately reminded her of missed calls. 3 from Paul. Dialing his number, she nervously tapped the table with a pen, waiting for an answer. The long rings stretched into eternity, and Elena was about to hang up when his voice finally came through, muffled and displeased. "Yes, darling?" She sounded too guilty, almost fawning. "Forgive me," she added, feeling caught. He sighed. Silence hung on the line, but the call didn't disconnect, and that gave her hope. "I know. I promised to leave earlier today," Elena continued, trying to explain. "But the project—" Paul cut her off sharply. "The project, of course, Elena. I understand. Work comes first. Only you're marrying me, not a project." Elena tried to soften her tone. "Paul, we're getting married in a month. I remember." "Okay, I'll wait for you at home," he said. "I'll be there soon, love," she promised. Hanging up, Elena slowly exhaled. How could she have forgotten her promise to finish earlier? However, it was typical of her. Work had been her only passion for many years, until Paul appeared in her life 2 years ago. She smiled, looking at the elegant diamond ring, remembering his excitement, his proposal on one knee, the sounds of the violin and restaurant applause, her tears of joy and a quiet yes. Only a year had passed, but their relationship had changed beyond recognition. Paul blamed her work for it, although Elena had always worked a lot, even at the beginning of their acquaintance. True, she had been promoted a year ago, and the workload increased. Now she carried the weight of a project on her shoulders that the future of the firm depended on, and she couldn't let her colleagues down. Paul, it seemed, didn't understand this. When she returned home, he was already asleep. Elena gently stroked his hair. He snuffled like a child but didn't wake up. Sighing, she headed to the bathroom, knowing that tomorrow morning he would be sullen and silent again. The mirror reflected a slender, tall girl with dark skin, a perfect black bob, and huge dark eyes framed by long lashes. Could it be that such a woman had to spend days on end in a stuffy office, hunched over a computer? Elena smiled at her reflection, making a decision. This week she would take a day off. She would dedicate the day to herself, tidy up her appearance, put on a beautiful dress, do her hair and makeup. In the evening she would order dinner and wine, put on her favorite music, and wait for his return. Perhaps then he would forgive her. Of course, she would have to promise to work less, and probably, after the project was completed, she really would be able to leave on time. Elena's diligence was rooted in her early childhood. No one, seeing her now, a successful woman in an expensive suit, driving a foreign car with a perfect manicure, would believe she grew up in a remote village. An hour-and-a-half drive to the nearest town, but it was real backwoods. Broken roads, dilapidated huts, pigs and cows roaming freely. That's how she remembered her small homeland. Elena was raised by her grandmother, although her parents were alive. Her mother divorced her father when Elena was 4, and the girl barely remembered him. Her first vivid memory was a long, bumpy ride with her mother on an old bus, with many bags and suitcases. At her grandmother's in the village, Elena was happy. Days were spent playing with neighboring children, and evenings with her grandmother's pies. But her mother didn't like it there, and after a few months, she left for the city. She promised to get settled, find housing, and immediately take her daughter. At first, her mother visited often, then less and less, and one day she came with news. She had met a man. They were getting married. Elena remembered Uncle Leo. He seemed to her unnaturally trying to please, with a fake smile, but her mother was happy with him. After the wedding, her mother was in no hurry to take Elena. "Why doesn't Mama come for me?" the girl asked her grandmother. She only sighed. She says the apartment is small, the grandmother explained, immediately adding, "Are you unhappy with me?" "No, Grandma," Elena replied. And so they lived together, just the two of them. Gradually, Elena got used to it. Grandma, Elena Vitalyevna, was kind, cheerful, and never despaired. "The main thing is that we are alive and healthy," she would repeat. "And as long as our arms and legs are intact, our heads work, everything can be fixed." In the village, they were called Old Elena and Young Elena, and this nickname stuck for a long time. But years took their toll, and young Elena understood early on that her grandmother needed help. Her mother initially sent a little money, but stopped after getting married. Her grandmother's pension barely covered the two of them. The garden, chickens, and a goat saved them. But young Elena understood that this couldn't go on forever. She, young Elena, needed to work to provide a decent life for herself and her grandmother. From childhood, she looked for any opportunity to earn extra money. Some women went to the city to sell harvest and homemade products, but her grandmother wouldn't let young Elena go. "You're too young," she would say. "What a horror, selling at the market. Don't worry, we have enough money." Elena heard these words, but she saw how her grandmother denied herself many things. She didn't buy new clothes, and Uncle Ivan had patched her winter boots for the umpteenth time. "If you won't let me go to the city, I'll find a way to earn money here," young Elena declared stubbornly. She collected berries and mushrooms, selling them to local buyers. Once a week, a collector of medicinal herbs came, and her grandmother showed her where to find them. Young Elena would leave early in the morning and return with a full sack. She also learned that the shop accepted empty bottles. There were many in the village, but no one wanted to wash and return them. Young Elena went around the houses, collected all the bottles, and brought them to the yard. That way, the neighbors got rid of clutter, and young Elena earned money. She also collected scrap metal with the local boys. Their leader, Andrew, explained the rules. "You want to join us. Everything you find is yours. But no one cares that you're a girl. You haul just the same." Elena couldn't carry as much as the boys, but she still earned a lot. She quickly realized that she should look not for the heaviest, but for the most expensive, copper. Having figured out which parts contained copper, Elena found it in the junkyard of abandoned cars and sold it. With this money, she bought herself clothes, shoes, school supplies, and she always kept an eye on her grandmother's wardrobe, so that Grandma Elena lacked nothing. "You're my little breadwinner," her grandmother would say with tears of tenderness, accepting the money. "When I grow up, Grandma," young Elena would reply, "I'll take you to the city. I'll buy us a big, big house and we'll live there. You won't have to work in the garden anymore." Grandma Elena would laugh. "I'm happy here too, my little one. But if you don't forget your old grandmother, I'll be very happy." At school, Elena excelled, especially in mathematics, physics, social studies, and geography, subjects she considered useful. After the 11th grade, she enrolled as an economist at the best city university. Her mother offered her to live with them, but Elena refused. "I'm fine in the dormitory," she said, "and you and the little one are already cramped." Her mother and her husband had a son, Stephen, 2 years ago. It seemed that after that, she completely forgot about Elena. Elena pretended not to be offended, but sometimes, when her grandmother was asleep, she would cry into her pillow. She thought, what was it about her that made her mother love her brother more? At university, Elena continued to study well, despite working from her first year and sending monthly transfers to her grandmother. "You'll see, Grandma," Elena would repeat. "I'll finish institute, get a job at a cool firm, then I'll move you, and we'll live well." Her grandmother only smiled. "The main thing is that you are well, my granddaughter." Elena passed all her exams with excellent marks, received a red diploma, and was about to go to the village. But then her mother called. "Elena," she cried into the phone, "your grandmother died." They all went to the village together, mother, stepfather, Elena, and little Stephen. Elena was so stunned that the entire following week passed in a fog. Her mother and stepfather handled the funeral arrangements. Elena looked after her brother. Sitting on the floor in her familiar grandmother's house, she watched Stephen play and thought, what now? She had promised her grandmother to take her to the city, to buy a big house. What was the point of trying now? Elena, I need to talk, her mother said after the funeral. Of course, Mama, Elena replied. We found your grandmother's will, her mother continued. She wanted the house to go to you. Elena shrugged indifferently. It doesn't matter to me, she said. I won't live here anyway. Everything here reminds me of Grandma and my childhood. Do as you wish, her mother sighed. A week later, Elena gathered her strength and returned to the city. This was the life she had dreamed of. She got a job and spent all the subsequent years climbing her way up. At 28, she became the youngest managing director in a large company. Her personal life didn't work out. Or rather, Elena didn't let anyone close until she met Paul. Perhaps it was love at first sight, or simply time for strong feelings. Mutual attraction arose immediately. Paul was her complete opposite, light-hearted, cheerful, carefree. He balanced her seriousness. He had his own fitness studio. He started as a trainer, then gathered a team and opened his own business. Elena immediately warned him that she worked a lot, to which Paul replied, It's nothing. I love my work too. And if I finish earlier, I'll cook dinner and wait for my beautiful girl. At first, that's how it was. But lately, Paul had become increasingly irritated by her work, and arguments began. Then Elena decided to surprise him. She acted as usual so he wouldn't suspect anything. After another argument, she tried to call and text more often. One day during a conversation, she asked, What time do you finish today? Why? Paul became wary. Nothing, Elena immediately replied. It's just that I'll be late again. Sorry. She thought she heard him sigh with relief. Well, I'll be home late too today. So it's okay. Elena smiled. Thank you for understanding everything. Of course, darling. He hung up. He's probably still upset, Elena sighed. It's okay. Today I'll melt his heart. Her new dress had just arrived, thin, made of soft red fabric, perfectly accentuating her figure. In this dress, he'll definitely forgive me, Elena thought contentedly, putting it back in the box. The employees were surprised when she announced she would leave early, but no one dared to ask the boss aloud. Elena arrived home, parked in her usual spot, and was surprised to see her fiancé's car next to hers. He must have taken a taxi, she thought, excited about the upcoming surprise. Without waiting for the elevator, she ran up to the 5th floor. Opening the door, she froze on the threshold. Paul's sneakers and some red women's sandals were lying in the hallway. No, the thought flashed. This only happens in bad comedies. Taking a deep breath and exhaling, she put the box with the dress on the floor, took off her shoes, and slowly walked into the apartment. Almost immediately, she heard her fiancé's voice from the bedroom. Elena slowly entered the room. The first thing she saw was Paul's back. Then she noticed the girl. Well, well, Elena said calmly. So I wasn't imagining it when I heard the joy in your voice at the news that I would be home late today. Paul turned sharply. There was such fear in his eyes that Elena almost found it funny. The young blonde girl shrieked loudly and pulled the blanket over herself. Elena, Paul exhaled in astonishment. She expected any reaction, a clumsy excuse, a plea for forgiveness. But her fiancé surprised her. He sighed sadly and said, Well, perhaps it's for the best. Then he turned to the girl, who was cowering under the blanket, hoping to become invisible. Jane, wait for me in the car, please. I'll be down in half an hour. Elena watched with surprise as Jane fearfully crawled out from under the blanket, quickly got dressed, and disappeared into the hallway. A second later, the front door slammed shut. Okay, Elena said. And what does all this mean? Paul sat on the bed, rubbing his temples tiredly. It means I'm tired and have been thinking for a long time that we should break up. Elena walked over and sat beside him. But why? I thought we just had a few small problems. Her fiancé shook his head. The problem is deeper. We are too different. It's not even that you work a lot. It's that work is more important to you than I am. It always has been." He looked at her. "And I can't live like that. I'm built differently. I'm not an achiever. I like to work, but I'm not ready to live in my gym like you live in your office. I want to enjoy life, and you don't know how." "Well, perhaps you're right. It will be better for both of us. I'm sorry," Paul said. He stood up, took out a suitcase, and started packing. Elena went to the kitchen. She sat there until she heard the front door slam shut. "Okay," Elena told herself, "but I have my work. The project is about to finish. I'll take a vacation and start a new life." But everything didn't go according to plan. A week later, arriving at work, she found a search going on in the office. Elena Vitalyevna, a stranger in a black suit, addressed her. "Yes?" she asked in surprise. "What's happening?" He ignored her question. "Let's go to your office. I need to take your statement." It turned out that the firm's management was suspected of large-scale fraud. Work was frozen, and the accounts and property of leading employees were seized. "Wait," Elena said. "Does that mean my property is also seized?" "Yes. Your car, apartment, and all bank accounts." "And for how long?" "Until the circumstances are clarified," he replied coldly. But I didn't understand at all. What was I supposed to do? Elena signed the papers and went home. She was allowed to take necessities before being evicted indefinitely. On the way, she called a lawyer, but he didn't offer much hope. "The charges are serious," he said. "Investigations take a long time, months, even years. And all this time my property is under arrest?" He sighed. "I'm afraid so, Elena Vitalyevna." The only place she could go was the old grandmother's house in the village. After her death, Elena had never been back there. At first glance, the house hadn't changed, just become even more dilapidated. Elena took an old, rusted lock from her bag. "Well, hello, Grandma," she said softly. As a child, the house seemed huge to her, now, small and old, but so familiar. She walked through the room and sat on the bed where she used to sleep. "What am I going to do now, Grandma?" she asked the empty room. "I thought I had everything. It turns out you can lose everything in an instant. Your fiancé, love, career, money, apartment. What's left? Your little house that I forgot about." And then, for the first time in many years, she cried bitterly, inconsolably. Elena woke up in the morning, awakened by the bright sun. She hadn't even noticed falling asleep, forgetting to draw the curtains. "Well, there," she sighed. "So many years I woke up without an alarm, and yesterday I even forgot to set one. Although what do I need it for now? There's no work." Her stomach rumbled, reminding her that she hadn't eaten since yesterday's lunch. Of course, there was no food in her grandmother's house. She had to go to the shop. It was still very early, and Elena decided to spend the time cleaning. Sweeping away the dust that had accumulated over the years, she didn't even notice how she became distracted from her sad thoughts. "Perhaps, if this drags on, I'll have to find work here," she reasoned. "Maybe I'll start a farm. Chickens, geese, maybe even a cow." After cleaning, her hunger became unbearable, and Elena thankfully headed to the shop as soon as it was time. Walking through the village, she noted the changes with surprise. It was better than in her childhood. New houses had appeared. Old ones had been renovated and painted. The shop in its usual place shone with a new sign. Drawn, not printed, Elena thought. Talented. Someone local? She went in and was surprised by the cleanliness, coziness, and assortment. The shop assistant, a young pretty girl, smiled kindly. "Good morning," she said. "You're our first customer today." Elena smiled back. "Good morning to you too. Nice to hear." "Are you here for the summer?" the girl asked. "I don't know yet. How did you guess I wasn't local?" "There aren't that many residents here. I know everyone by face." Elena laughed. "Exactly. I didn't think. I lived here until 17, then moved to the city." She looked thoughtfully at the shop assistant. "Strange. You're younger, but not by much. Theoretically, I should remember you." The girl smiled. "No, I arrived a year ago with my older brother." "Oh, really?" Elena exclaimed. "To live?" "Yeah. Didn't think anyone would voluntarily want to live in such a backwater." Anya was a little offended. "You shouldn't say that," she said. "It's very nice here. Not far from the city, but the nature is beautiful. The air is clean. Actually, my brother wanted to. He's an artist." "Oh, really?" Elena exclaimed. "So he drew the sign. It's very beautiful." "Thanks, I'll tell him. But I've been chatting too much. You're here to shop." "It was very interesting. By the way, my name is Elena. Very nice to meet you. Anya." The shop assistant resolutely extended a small, strong hand which Elena shook. After that, Elena dictated her shopping list. Anya quickly brought what was needed and advised on what was best to take. In the end, both girls were pleased with the acquaintance. "Where do you live?" Anya asked. "The second to last house on the edge, by the lake," Elena replied. "That's great." Anya was delighted. "My brother and I live in the last one. I'll definitely introduce you sometime." "Okay," Elena replied. "I'd be glad." The weather was wonderful, and Elena decided to eat outside. She didn't feel like cooking, so she made cheese and sausage sandwiches on fresh bread, brewed tea, and went out onto the porch. The sun was shining. Birds were singing. Elena sat, ate, and enjoyed the summer day. She realized with surprise that she couldn't remember the last time she had just sat like this, without work, without plans, without thoughts of business. Suddenly, a meow sounded near her feet. Elena turned her head and saw a fat, striped cat who had silently climbed onto the porch. He was looking at her with interest, or rather, at the plate. "Judging by your appearance, you're not suffering from hunger," Elena remarked. The cat looked intently and repeated, "Meow," persistently. "Okay, you little blackmailer, here you go." She took out some sausage and gave it to the cat. He sniffed it, took it carefully, put it on the porch, and began to eat. "Enjoy your meal," Elena said and closed her eyes, enjoying the sun. But a few seconds later, the peace was disturbed again. "Sandro!" a man's voice called out. "Sandro, where are you? Ran off to the neighbors again?" Elena glanced at the cat, but he, even if he heard, didn't react at all. "It seems that's for you," Elena remarked. "Sandro, are you here?" The gate leaf swung open, and she saw a handsome, blue-eyed man with curly blonde hair and a small, light brown beard. He seemed not to expect to see anyone but the cat and was embarrassed. "Excuse me, please. That's my cat. He keeps running off here. Sometimes I come to catch him, but honestly, I haven't touched anything but the cat." Elena smiled. "It's okay. You have a very nice cat." She looked at Sandro, who, having finished the sausage, was washing himself. "He's already begged food from you too," his owner said regretfully. "It's impossible to refuse him," Elena replied. "And you, I suppose, are the artist, Anya's brother?" "The one and only," he said, surprised. "I don't think I've earned that title yet, if you mean it in a good way. But yes, I'm Anya's brother, Artem." He extended his hand as strong as his sister's, but larger. "Elena," the girl said, shaking his hand. "Very nice to meet you." "If I had known someone lived here, I wouldn't have intruded," he said. "I only arrived yesterday," Elena replied. "So you couldn't have known. And I met your sister a couple of hours ago at the shop." "Well, then it's clear. Are you staying long?" "I don't know yet. Most likely, yes." Artem picked up the cat, who meowed discontentedly but didn't resist. "Come visit us any time," Artem said. "I'm often home if I don't go somewhere. My sister works until 6, then she's home too." "Okay," Elena replied. "I'll stop by sometime. Give me a couple of days to settle in and tidy up here." "Of course," Artem replied. "If you need help, just ask. The doors of our house are always open." Literally. The neighbor and the cat left, and Elena reached for her phone. She was waiting for a call, from the lawyer with good news about the firm's case, or from Paul. Thinking of him, Elena immediately cursed. Things to do. I'll go do something useful. Elena spent the rest of the evening tidying the house. She washed the windows, brushed away cobwebs, vacuumed the furniture and the huge, heavy rug that covered the entire room. As long as she could remember, it had always been there. Her grandmother, it seemed, had never moved it. It must have been very high quality because after so many years it remained dense, only the colors had faded. At first, Elena wanted to take it out, but taking hold of a corner, she realized how heavy it was. Let it stay, she decided. Grandma didn't move it for a reason. The first couple of days were spent cleaning, leaving no time to think about anything else. But now that the house was tidy, visiting the neighbors seemed like a good idea. Anya is very nice, lively, Elena thought. And she has a business sense. We'll find common ground. And her brother is probably just a nice eccentric. Well, you can sometimes talk to people like that too. Out of curiosity, she resolutely stood up, left the house, hung the old lock, and headed towards the neighbors. She immediately noticed how different their house was. She didn't remember who lived there in her childhood, but it was a typical village house. Now it was renovated, plastered, and painted a soft salmon color. Beautiful, Elena thought, and unusual. She walked up to the gate and pushed it. It wasn't locked. An old SUV was parked in the yard. Anya probably used it to go to the city for goods. And there were flowers in the yard, the most ordinary wildflowers. This seemed strange, as they were usually considered weeds and pulled out, replaced by cultivated ones. "Artem!" Elena called out. "Anya!" "Meow," came the reply. Sandra was sitting on the porch, squinting in the sun. "Hello, friend," Elena greeted him. "Where's your owner?" "I'm here." A voice sounded unexpectedly close, making her jump. Elena hadn't noticed she was standing by an open window, from which Artem had answered. "Sorry, didn't mean to scare you." "It's okay. I was just bored at home. I remembered your invitation." Artem smiled. "I'm very glad. My sister was upset you didn't come over. She wanted to stop by this evening." He squinted slyly. "If you're not too busy right now, we could take a walk. I was just looking for a new spot for a painting." Elena shrugged. She didn't like aimless walks, but there was nothing else to do. "Okay," she replied. "Then I'm coming." Artem came out of the house with a huge backpack on his shoulders. "I'm ready," he said. "Let's go." "Shouldn't you close the door?" Elena reminded him. "And the windows. What if someone gets in?" He shrugged. "Everyone here seems nice enough. But if someone decides to, that will be on their conscience." What a philosophy, Elena thought, but said nothing. They went out the gate, and Artem confidently led her along a path. At first, Elena thought they would go to the lake where she used to swim as a child, but they walked past without stopping. "Tell me about yourself," Artem suddenly asked. "You're so mysterious." Elena smiled. "I don't know why you decided that. The house was empty. I needed a place to live. I moved in. That's all." "Well, suit yourself. I won't pry. It's just that you're clearly not the kind of person who would come here voluntarily." "Then I can say that you and your sister are no less mysterious." He laughed. "That's true. What do you think? Maybe we'll stop here? It's a nice spot." Talking, Elena hadn't noticed they had reached a small hill overlooking the lake. "Beautiful," Elena admitted. "I lived here for so many years and never saw it from this angle." Artem gave her a blanket, which she spread out and sat on. The artist took an easel, canvas, paints, and brushes from his backpack. The day was warm, not hot, and she enjoyed the outing into nature with pleasure. "If I talk, will it bother you much?" she asked. Artem shook his head negatively. "Not at all. Hand's right, and the head can do whatever it wants. Talking with such a smart, interesting girl will be doubly pleasant." Elena smiled. "Okay. Will you be offended if I ask something personal?" He shrugged. "I don't think I'm easily offended. You can try." "Your work? It's not very profitable, is it? Especially in a village." "True. But it's enough to live on. The main thing is, I'm doing what I love. Just like your sister. She has a great shop, Elena remarked. It seems she knows how to run a business. Artem smiled. I knew from the first glance that you and Anya were similar. Elena decided to be honest. Yes, I find it relatable when people have a favorite pursuit they dedicate themselves to completely and get results. In monetary terms? Artem clarified with a smile. And are you against money? No. It's just that different people need different amounts. Many don't know how to earn it and comfort themselves by saying money isn't the main thing. She stopped herself, thinking that Artem probably thought exactly that. But the artist wasn't offended. He just smiled. Well, I really do think that, he said. Of course, I'm not an ascetic. I don't want to live in a hut. But the life I lead suits me, and I'm happy. Well, I'm happy for you, Elena replied. But I'm not happy with my life. Right now. I lived in a huge apartment, drove a luxurious car, had 100 people reporting to me, and I was absolutely happy. And now I've lost everything, and it's unknown when I'll get it back. I'm not happy with that. The artist turned and looked at her. Strange, he said. When I first saw you, feeding the cat sausage, you looked completely happy. It was a moment. But life consists of moments. Elena couldn't think of an answer. She just looked at the lake, remembering how she used to swim there with the kids as a child, staying in the water until her lips turned blue. Then she would run home, where her grandmother would rub her with a towel and take her to the bathhouse. It was so hot there that the warmth penetrated to her bones, and how good it was afterwards to sit at the table, wrapped in a towel, watching her grandmother fuss, pouring tea with milk, pushing pies closer. But even later, in the city, she remembered her apartment, huge, expensive, in the center, in a super modern complex. The best designer had done the renovation, but Elena was hardly ever there, always at work. Her expensive car, she drove it for 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes in the evening when there was no traffic. And work. Did work make her happy? Or was it the only place where she felt important and needed, where she was valued and praised? And to not lose that, Elena was ready to spend her whole life there. I don't even have any friends, she suddenly thought sadly. She had friends at the institute. She kept in touch for 6 months after graduation. Then she refused meetings every time because of work, and they stopped inviting her. Make friends at work? Everyone there was either a subordinate or a competitor. It was strange that she was able to start dating Paul at all. Lost in such thoughts, Elena didn't notice how much time had passed. She came to when Artem spoke again. I think that's enough for today. Can I see? Elena asked. Of course. He stepped aside, and she saw the painting, and she was very surprised. She expected a landscape, but she saw herself. The lake and the forest were far away, blurred in the background. Most of the painting was Elena. Her face was barely visible, but the pose, the lowered head, the inner state. Yes, you can see how desperate I am here, Elena thought sadly. How did he manage to capture that? You didn't like it? Artem asked, concerned. Elena forced herself to smile. Unexpected, she said honestly. I didn't even notice you were painting me. Artem smiled. I didn't plan to, but I looked at you and realized I wouldn't rest until I captured your state today. Elena gave an awkward chuckle. You definitely have talent. Thank you. Sorry if I embarrassed you. It's hard to embarrass me. He smiled. My sister will be back soon. I suggest we go back and make dinner. Haven't I bored you today? On the contrary, it's interesting. In the time I've been here, I've studied all the residents. I wanted something new. And here you are. Oh, really? So I'm just a new object for you? He laughed. Not just. I was curious before to imagine what you were like, but I didn't expect to see you in person. Seeing Elena's confusion, he explained. Your neighbor, Uncle Ivan, told me a lot. Elena chuckled. Oh, really? And what did he say? That people like you are rarely born, that you were special from childhood, bright as the sun, strong as the wind. You never doubted yourself. There was no task you couldn't handle. Well, it's not quite like that now, Elena remarked. Not at all. That's exactly how you look. She smiled sadly. Look at the painting. Clearly not. Artem sighed. I understand that you've been through some serious events, but I think you didn't return here by chance. Elena laughed. So you're not just a non-materialist, a romantic, and an altruist, but also a mystic? Artem laughed. Too much for you? Yes, but you're right. Here, I feel like I'm regaining my strength, and I'm very happy about that. The cat was waiting for them on the porch. Sandro, Elena suddenly said. Is that after Sandro Botticelli? Yes, Artem replied. Banal. Well, well. The cat meowed expressively. His owner frowned. I hoped life and nature would teach him to find food. He does find it, Elena defended the cat, as best he can. It was cool inside Artem's house. The walls, as she expected, were covered with paintings. You really are very talented, Elena said, looking at them. Thank you. Will you help with dinner? Of course. By the time Anya returned, everything was ready. Wow, she said, seeing Elena. I was just going to stop by your place today. They hugged. Elena was seeing Anya for the second time, but she felt an inexplicable liking for her. I've been bothering your talented brother all day, Elena said. Anya laughed. Yes, he's almost a genius. All right, that's enough, Artem grumbled. Let's sit down. At dinner, Elena spoke about Artem's paintings again. What I saw today is amazing. She turned to Anya, hoping for her support. It's a crime that Artem's paintings are hanging in a village house and no one sees them. Out of the corner of her eye, she noticed the artist frown, but continued. I can look among my acquaintances for someone who can help organize an exhibition. I'm sure Artem will have huge success and fame. To her surprise, Anya smiled and shook her head. Thank you for the offer, she replied. But we don't need that. What? Elena thought she had misheard. Okay, Artem, but you, Anya. I thought you were like me. You have a business sense and... We don't need fame, attention, and success, Artem interrupted suddenly. We had reasons to come here. I don't want big exhibitions. I just want to live here quietly and peacefully. Elena looked at the sister, and for a second, it seemed to her that tears sparkled in Anya's eyes. What's happening? Elena wondered. She just wanted to help. Okay, she said aloud. I've intruded. I see you have personal reasons. She carefully stood up, stroked Sandro, who had settled on a chair. And anyway, I've overstayed my welcome. It was a good day. Nice to meet you. Goodbye. Neither brother nor sister said a word, and only when Elena had left the gate did a breathless Anya catch up with her. Elena, wait. Elena turned around. From the girl's red eyes, it was clear she was on the verge of tears. Forgive us, Anya suddenly said. Honestly, I really want to be friends with you. And my brother liked you, which is rare. He tries not to let people get close. There are reasons. We really want to be friends with you. And about the gallery. It was a wonderful offer, under different circumstances. It's a pity I can't tell you everything. She grabbed Elena's fingers with her small, strong hands and squeezed. Just please believe that there are reasons why we came here and live this quiet life. And promise not to be offended. Okay, Elena replied. I won't. Days flowed peacefully. Elena called the lawyer, tried to contact the firm's management, but there was no news. The investigation is ongoing. When it will finish and what the results will be is unclear. All that remained was to wait, and that was the worst part. To keep herself busy, Elena started getting closer to her neighbors. She helped Anya at the shop. Several times they went to the city for goods. Elena helped unload, arrange, and do paperwork. This isn't your level, she told her friend. You could easily handle a chain of supermarkets. If you worked for me, you'd already be managing a department. Anya smiled. I'm happy here too, she replied. Elena noted the strange phrase but decided the time for details hadn't come yet. In her free time, she would visit Artem. Several times he took her out into nature, and Elena was surprised each time. She had lived here for so many years, but Artem, who had arrived recently, easily found places of such breathtaking beauty. "It's just an artist's ability," he replied modestly. "Another one of your talents," she clarified. The artist only shook his head. "You are a very interesting girl," he remarked. "When you meet strangers, you pretend to be cold, act like people don't interest you. But in reality, you are attentive and see the good core in everyone, which the person themselves doesn't suspect." Elena was embarrassed. "You're praising me too much. You underestimate yourself. I didn't have problems with self-esteem. This is different." They were silent for a while. Elena watched Artem sketch the moving clouds, wondering how he managed. Suddenly a question came to her mind. "Tell me," she asked, "how do you imagine your future in 10 or 20 years?" He sighed and looked into the distance. "Too long a term," the artist finally replied. "For now, I can say that I really like it here, and I want to stay here forever." The last words sounded rather gloomy, and Elena wanted to put on something warm to chase away the goosebumps. She suddenly realized that with each passing day, she was becoming more attached to the village and to this brother and sister. 2 weeks later, the lawyer called. "Elena Vitalyevna!" he shouted into the phone, practically jumping. Such a tone conveys either very good or very bad news. "The investigation is over. No violations found," he shouted to her. "We're waiting for you at the office tomorrow. You can return to your apartment." Elena sharply exhaled and sat down on the floor. Her head was spinning. "You're not joking?" she asked, just in case. The lawyer was taken aback. "God forbid. Of course not." "Excuse me, it's just unexpected, thank you." "Thanks." She put the phone on the floor, trying to compose herself. Of course, this was wonderful news, and she should be happy. But for some reason, her first thought was that this meant she had to leave the village, return to the endless work routine where there was no peace or quiet. "Meow!" Elena turned her head in surprise. It was hot. She hadn't closed the door, only the tulle curtain. The cat was sitting in the house, looking at her as if she owed him something. "You're a cheeky one," Elena said. She stood up, cut a piece of sausage, and gave it to the cat. He didn't look at the treat, repeating persistently, "Meow." "All right, Your Holiness, there's nothing else. Eat this or go home and pester your owner." "Meow." Elena sighed, scooped up the cheeky fellow, and went to the neighbors. "Artem!" she called into the open window. "I brought the cat." No one answered. "Artem?" Silence. She could have left Sandro, but for some reason Elena went inside. She saw Artem immediately. He was lying on the floor unconscious. "Artem!" She rushed to him, checked his pulse. Alive. She immediately called Anya. She explained. "I'll be there in a minute," she replied. Elena started thinking. His heart was beating. He was breathing. She gently patted his cheek. Artem's eyes fluttered open. "Can you hear me?" Elena asked. "Hold on. I'll call an ambulance." "No need," he whispered. "My sister." "I'm here." Anya quickly slipped into the kitchen, returned with a glass of water and a pill. She helped her brother swallow it. Then they both moved him to the sofa. Having made sure he was out of danger, Anya led Elena onto the porch. "Do you know what's wrong with him?" Elena asked. Tears welled up in the girl's eyes. "I know," she replied curtly. "It's hereditary. My mother had the same thing." Elena couldn't find the words. "No. I mean, there's severe damage to the nervous system. There's an injection. It's paid for. It costs so much that no fund can help." Elena swallowed. The decision came instantly. "Tell me how much." Anya named the sum. Elena whistled. "Exactly," Anya said with a bitter smile. "We constantly don't have enough money. That's why we moved here. Artem wants to paint while he can, to live these years in peace with me." And she cried. Elena silently hugged her. Her head was occupied with something else. She spent the rest of the day on the phone. Even selling the apartment, the car, taking out all the money, it wasn't enough for the round sum. Where to get it? She asked aloud. Oh, Grandma, if you were alive, no matter how poor we were, you always came up with something, got money from somewhere. She remembered asking where the money came from, and Grandma Elena would reply, "The house spirit gave it, but you can't just take it, only for a great need." Elena fell asleep with difficulty. She thought about her grandmother. She was almost not surprised to open her eyes and see Grandma Elena by the bed, gently stroking her head. "Grandma," Elena exclaimed in surprise, "am I dreaming?" "Of course, my little one. Did I do something wrong?" "You're doing everything right, dear. I just don't understand one thing. You started living in my house. You tidied everything up. But why didn't you properly air out the rug?" Elena couldn't find an answer. Her grandmother smiled and disappeared. Elena woke up with a pounding heart. She grabbed the heavy rug and started rolling it up. "Nonsense," she muttered aloud. "I've gone crazy." But suddenly on the floor, she saw an almost invisible square hatch. There was no handle. She had to work at it with a knife. The hatch yielded, opening a passage into a small cellar, the size of a closet. Elena shone a flashlight. At the bottom, an old metal chest. Not believing her eyes, she opened the lid and gasped. "Well, how is he?" Elena asked Anya. She hadn't made it to Artem's discharge because of business in the city, but she rushed there immediately. "He's sleeping," Anya said. "Sorry, I would invite you in, but I'm afraid of waking him." "Then let's go to my place," Elena suggested. The girl nodded. When they came to Elena's and sat down at the table, Anya said, "I haven't even properly thanked you for saving my brother. Thank you. I'll never forget it. Consider yourself like a sister to me now. Perhaps this is the first truly good thing I've ever done." "Don't say that. You are a very good person. I know you sold your apartment, your car, took out all your money. And also—" She looked at Elena, embarrassed. Elena laughed. "Yes, I also found a treasure in my grandmother's house. It sounds unbelievable." "Exactly. Do you think Grandma knew?" "Of course. She couldn't not know. She hinted when I was a child, told fairy tales. But I didn't understand or didn't believe. I think she herself didn't want to use it, didn't consider it hers." "I see. Yes. Grandma believed you could only take it in a special case, and that's how it turned out." Anya smiled. "It's strange to ask," she said, "but do you regret it? Not saving my brother or meeting us. But that otherwise all your property, money, treasures would have stayed with you, and this way you only have your work." Elena smiled. "I don't have work either. I wrote my resignation letter today." Anya's eyes widened. "What? But what about everything you talked about? Your career, your achievements?" "No, I don't regret it. Yes, I would have a lot of money, but it wouldn't have made me happier. It's strange to say, but I suddenly realized that all my life I strived for success and wealth. I got it, but I didn't become happier. To understand, I had to lose the money, even if temporarily. It was easy to trade everything for Artem's life and health. Even though I know him a little, I'm sure he understands what life is and values it." Anya's eyes filled with tears. She quickly wiped them away and asked, "And what about you? Will you stay with us?" Elena smiled. "For now, yes. I don't know what I'll do next. But for now, I'm happy here. I'm glad we met." "And we are glad," Anya replied. "Very." They talked a little more, then Anya went home to her brother. A few days later, Artem was strong enough to visit his savior. "Shall we take a walk?" he asked, coming to her place. "Can you?" Elena asked doubtfully. "If I stay lying down, I'll die. I feel very good." Without a word, they walked along the same path past the lake to the hill where Artem had painted Elena. "Imagine that," she said in surprise. "Only a little time has passed since our first meeting, but it feels like a lifetime." Artem smiled. As before, he spread out the blanket, and they sat next to each other. In my opinion, he replied, that's the beauty of life. Sometimes hundreds of years pass the same way, and sometimes in a few weeks, you can experience enough for a lifetime. Elena smiled. I remember, she said, how we sat here, and you asked if I believed that everything that happened for a reason, was necessary. Yes, that was me. I was terribly angry with you then, Elena admitted. I thought you were just an eccentric who didn't know life, imagining himself a romantic and a philosopher. Artem laughed. But every word is true. That's who I am. That's just a part of you. You and your sister are amazing people. Now I'm sure our meeting was fate. He turned his head, looking with curiosity. And you never cease to surprise me, Elena. As I said, you see the good in people, even though you didn't show it at first. But I'm surprised that you're still not ready to admit the good in yourself. You are smart, hardworking. You will achieve success. But you stubbornly refuse to admit that you are a wonderful person, worthy of love and friendship, whom it's impossible not to love. It's as if you do everything to be considered cold and unfeeling. If my sister and I have helped you see your true self even a little, I am very happy. Elena suddenly felt hot tears streaming down her face. Not holding them back, she moved closer to Artem. He hugged her, and she rested her head on his shoulder. No more words were needed. They just sat together, looking at the lake, illuminated by the sun. Elena felt as if a huge weight had fallen from her shoulders, one she had carried since childhood. She didn't know what would happen next. Would she and Anya remain friends? Would there be a relationship with Artem? But she knew one thing for sure. She would never lose her true self again.